I used to measure strength by how much weight I could deadlift, how many miles I could run, how many hours I could work without breaking. Then CRPS rewrote every rule I thought I knew about being strong. It turns out the strongest thing I ever did wasn't lifting 400 pounds. It was getting out of bed on a day when my pain was screaming at me to stay down. It was choosing hope when despair felt easier. It was rebuilding my entire definition of what it means to be powerful. Welcome back to Painfully Real. I'm Josh, and today we're talking about something that every person with chronic illness faces. What happens when your old definitions of strength become not just irrelevant, but dangerous? You see, society teaches us that strong people push through, that they don't quit, they don't complain, they certainly don't need help or accommodations or rest days. Strong people are productive, reliable, they are unbreakable. But what happens when pushing through literally makes you worse? When being unbreakable breaks you? When the very traits you were praised for become the ones that hurt you most? If you've ever felt like a failure because you had to slow down or scale back or ask for help, this episode is for you. If you've ever wondered if you're weak for having limitations, this is for you. And if you've ever had to completely reconstruct your sense of self-worth, is definitely for you. Because here's the truth. Redefining strength isn't giving up. It's growing up. It's evolution, and it might be the most important work you ever do. Before CRPS, my strength blueprint was pretty standard American hustle culture. Work harder, sleep less, push through discomfort, never show weakness, always be available, always say yes. I wore my exhaustion like a badge of honor. 12-hour work days. It's normal. Working through sick days. It's dedication. Ignoring my body's signals for rest. Just building character. I thought strength meant being invulnerable. Strong people didn't need to, they didn't get overwhelmed. They didn't need breaks. They didn't have bad days or limitations or things they simply couldn't do. I remember feeling superior to people who seemed high maintenance. Those who needed regular breaks, who couldn't handle certain environments, people who had to leave events early or decline invitations. I thought they were weak, dramatic, or making excuses. Man, the universe has a sense of humor about our judgments, doesn't it? For me, this blueprint served me in some ways. I achieved a lot, impressed a lot of people, got labeled as dependable and tough, but at the same time, it was also quietly destroying me. Even before CRPS entered the picture, because here's what that blueprint actually teaches you. Your worth is tied to your output. Rest is earned, not needed. Struggling means failing, and asking for help means admitting defeat. When CRPS arrived, that blueprint didn't just stop working. It became actively harmful. Every rule I'd learned about being strong was suddenly the thing keeping me from healing. For the first year after my diagnosis, I tried to apply my old strength rules to my new reality. I was determined to power through CRPS the same way I'd powered through everything else. I kept my full work schedule. Even when walking wards and doing checks and doing all that felt like torture. I said yes to social events, even when I knew I'd pay for it with days of increased pain. I refused accommodations, adaptive equipment, or any modifications that might make life easier. Because in my mind, needing help meant weakness. And I was strong. Man, I was wrong. My plan was I was going to beat this thing through sheer force of will. I was going to prove that CRPS couldn't change who I was or what I was capable of. I was going to be the inspiring story of someone who overcame their diagnosis through positive thinking and determination. You see, that lasted about 18 months when my body made the decision. The breaking point came during what should have been a routine day. I was in a flare, but pushed through to attend work. Halfway through, the pain spiked so intensely, I literally couldn't speak. I sat there, trying to hide the tears coming down my face, trying to act like everything was fine while my nervous system was having a complete meltdown. That night, I couldn't walk. I couldn't think clearly. Could barely function for 3 days afterward, and I realized something terrifying. My old definition of strength was making me worse. Every time I pushed through, I was teaching my nervous system that pain didn't matter, that distress signals should be ignored. I was training my body not to trust me or to take care of it. Rebuilding my definition of strength was like renovating a house while living in it. It was messy, uncomfortable, but it was absolutely necessary. The first new rule I had to learn was listening to your body isn't weakness. It's wisdom. For decades, I treated my body like an employee I didn't trust. I ignored its requests for rest, pushed through its warnings. I overrode its protective mechanisms. Now I had to learn to treat it like a partner whose input actually mattered. This meant paying attention to early warning signs instead of waiting for a complete collapse. It meant resting before I was forced to, not after. It meant saying no to things I wanted to do when my body was telling me the cost was too high. My second rule it was small victories count as real victories. I used to measure success in miles run, projects completed, goals achieved. Now I had to find ways to celebrate getting dressed on a bad day, making it to a friend's birthday dinner, or simply not giving up when everything hurt. I started keeping what I called a strength journal. Instead of tracking workouts or achievements, I tracked moments of resilience. Today, I advocated for myself at the doctor's office. I asked for help when I needed it. I rested without guilt. These felt like tiny things at first, but tiny things add up. And slowly, I started to see that my new version of strength wasn't smaller than the old one. It was just more sophisticated. My third rule was asking for help is a strength skill. It's not a character flaw. This one was one of the hardest ones. I had built my identity on being the helper, never the helped. But CRPS made it impossible to maintain that dynamic. I had to learn to accept help with grocery shopping, cleaning, even basic tasks on a bad day. Something interesting happened. Instead of making me feel weak, it made me feel connected. People wanted to help. They want to feel needed. I had been robbing them of that opportunity by insisting I could do everything alone. New Rule 4 was boundaries aren't barriers, they're protection systems. Before I said yes to everything because I thought that's what strong people did. After CRPS, I learned that saying no was often the stronger choice. No to events that would trigger flares. No to energy vampires who drain my already limited reserve. No to commitments that would require me to choose between my health and my obligations. You see, this wasn't me giving up. It was strategic resource management. I had limited energy, and I was going to spend it on things that truly mattered to me. One of the biggest obstacles to redefining strength was comparison. I was constantly measuring myself against 3 different standards and failing all of them. First, I compare myself to who I used to be. Old me could work 12-hour days. Old me could hike for hours. Old me never had to plan his life around pain levels or energy reserves. This comparison was particularly cruel because it was measuring current me against someone who no longer existed. I accompanied my, or, you know, I sat here and I compared myself to other people with CRPS. I read about someone running marathons with CRPS or working full time or traveling the world and think, well, why can't I do that? Am I not trying hard enough? Am I making excuses? Here's what I learned. CRPS affects everyone differently. There's no standard trajectory, no uniform experience, no right way to have this condition. Someone else's success doesn't diminish your struggle, and someone else's struggle doesn't invalidate your progress. The third and most dangerously, I compared myself to healthy people, watching friends live their lives without calculating the pain cost of every decision, seeing colleagues advance in careers while my career was ending. See, the comparison trap keeps you stuck because it's measuring you against impossible standards. It's like comparing your rough draft to someone else's published novel, or your behind the scenes chaos to someone else's highlight reel. My breakthrough came when I started comparing myself to only one person, yesterday's me. Some days, yesterday's me had more energy, less pain, more hope. Those days, I practiced self-compassion. Other days, today me took a step forward that yesterday me couldn't manage. Those days, I celebrated. This shift changed everything. Instead of feeling like I was constantly falling short, I started noticing actual progress. Tiny progress maybe, but it was real progress. So what does strength look like now? It's completely different. It's actually better. Strength is showing up for your life when showing up looks different every day. Some days it's getting dressed and leaving the house. Other days it's staying in bed and taking care of yourself without guilt. Both require courage. Strength is advocating for yourself when the world doesn't understand your needs. It's explaining your condition for the 100th time. It's asking for accommodations. It's refusing to apologize for having limitations. Strength is feeling your feelings without being consumed. It's crying when you need to cry, raging when you need to rage, and grieving what you've lost while still believing that joy is possible. Strength is building a life worth living without, or, within whatever constraints you're given. It's creativity, adaptation, and stubborn hope that in the face of uncertainty. Strength is continuing to love yourself even when your body feels like the enemy. It's treating yourself with the same compassion you'd show a friend going through hell. It's refusing to let pain make you smaller. The old version of strength was about conquest, overcoming, defeating, powering through. The new version is about partnership, working with your body, honoring your limits, finding ways to thrive within reality instead of fighting against it. And here's the thing that surprised me most. This new definition of strength made me more powerful. When I stopped wasting energy fighting my limitations, I had more energy for the things that actually mattered. When I stopped trying to be invulnerable, I became genuinely resilient. 3 years into redefining strength, here's what my life looks like. I work, but I work smarter. I've structured my schedule around my energy patterns instead of fighting against them. I'm more productive in fewer hours than I ever was trying to power through. I socialize, but selectively. I spend my social energy on people who understand and support my reality rather than trying to perform normalcy for those who don't. I rest without guilt. This was the hardest lesson, but the most important one. Rest isn't earned, it's required. It's not weakness, it's maintenance. I've learned to celebrate different victories. Yesterday, I celebrated successfully advocating for myself at a medical. Last week, I celebrated having enough energy to cook for, friends that came over. These aren't small wins. They're exactly the right size. The beautiful irony is this: when I stopped trying to be strong according to others people's definitions, I became genuinely powerful. When I stopped trying to prove that I was unbreakable, I became truly resilient. If you're in the middle of your own strength redefining process, I want you to know it's normal for you to feel like you're going backwards at first. When you stop pushing through everything, when you start honoring your limits, when you begin asking for help, it can feel like weakness. Here's the thing: that's not weakness, it's wisdom. You're not giving up, you're growing up. You're not settling for less, you're building something sustainable. You're not failing at strength. You're succeeding more, at more sophisticated version of yourself. Your new strength might look different than you expected, but it's yours. It's real. It's powerful. And it's exactly what you need to build a life worth living with. In our next episode, we're diving into one of the most challenging aspects of invisible illness: relationships. How do you maintain connection when your capacity consistently changes? How do you help others understand what they can't see? And how do you protect yourself from those who refuse to try? If today's episode gave you a new way to think about your own strength, please share it. Someone in your network might need permission to redefine their own power. Remember, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not failing at life. You are learning to live differently. And that takes more strength than most people will ever understand. I'm Josh. This is Painfully Real, and you are stronger than you know.